Going up there to go to work. Well, I did, the reason I went up there is they put that paper label on, and the way it did, it had two prongs. It would go up and pick the label up, bring it down, and another one would pull that and whack it down. And that thing ran, I think, about 90 bottles a minute. And it didn't have anybody else that could run that machine, and I got, being a kid and everything, I could take those eggs, put them in there, bring them out, and flip them and get it in there and turn around and do all that kind of stuff. So when they moved the clothes, they couldn't find anybody else to run that labeling machine. So they sent word down there they wanted me to come up and get it. But the old man offered me $10 a week. Well, I keep going, oh, I'll give you $12.50. And I said, pay rent and board and all these things. Well, I'll give you $12.50 now and $15 later. And of course, when he sold the business about a year later, I got thrust my $12.50, $15.
Mom, talk about when you and your best friend moved to California, how she ended up marrying one of your brothers. Back when we graduated from high school, there was a girl named Anita Sherman, who was my very, very best friend. And then there was a Scooter Jones and a Rodema Edwards that we were all the four of us were really, really good. The best friend, though, was Benita and I. We stuck together. The other two were cousins, so it kind of split up. But all the way through, when I graduated from high school, I went to beauty school and worked at that for a while, but then I could go to work at the air base and get $2.75 an hour, which is certainly a lot more than I was making individually. But then Benita decided that she wanted to go to the air base with me. So she and I went up to Clovis, and the other two girls went with us, and we went to work in the motor pool for the air base up there, driving staff cars. I was assigned to the quartermaster. Benita was assigned to a different division, and we had to get our staff car every morning, and then we would go, we would just report to them, and then we would do whatever they wanted us to do. I know I made several trips to Amarillo picking up some colonel or something for the quartermaster. I was in the quartermaster department. And Anita had made several trips too, going and picking up different ones. But the most fun thing is, I think Benita and I probably helped to save the war more than what the old boys that was out there working, because we were keeping them very happy. We took a flatbed truck, just a small one. She drove one and I drove one, and we went from Clovis down to the base in El Paso, and they loaded it up with beer, and we drove it back to Cannon Air Force Base. Now, isn't that keeping them happy? You betcha. And we told for a long time when we was nothing but beer haulers, and got a big kick out of it. But after we had worked there for a while, well, we wanted to go to California and visit a girlfriend that we had also had. So the four of us get on the train. Then we didn't have cars. Well, they had cars, but we couldn't afford cars. But a lot of travel was done by train. So we got on the train, and we go out to San Francisco, and the girl that we went to visit, her husband was in the Navy, and he was gone, so we stayed there with her for a while. And we decided we liked the San Francisco area. So we just stayed, and so we started applying for jobs. And Benita and I could go to work in the shipyard as a welder, and they would pay our way for a 6 weeks course, and they would pay us a small fee to help pay our expenses and things in this time. And we would work in the shipyard, which is over at Richmond across the way. So Benita and I both took the course. The other two girls stayed in San Francisco and went to work in the restaurant. But Benita and I got us an apartment over at Richmond, and we worked in the shipyards, and we got our certification to be a welder. And we welded, I'm not for sure, but I think it's about 2 years that we did this. But it was a real good job. And one time we went in to housing was real hard, and we had one bedroom, but we had to share the bath down the hall with two other bedrooms in the house that we were. But one day I went to get my time card to punch in, and it said, if you're the Frankie King from Portales, New Mexico, come by the machine shop. So I went by the machine shop, and there was an aunt and uncle of mine that was working in the machine shop. That was my mother's brother and his wife, and holy goodness, they had an extra bedroom. So Benita and I went over and we rented the bedroom from them, and all that. And then when the war was over and they kind of cut down on this, then Benita and I went down to Los Angeles and had an apartment with an aunt of my dad's, a sister of my dad's. She had a bunch of apartments, and Benita went to work for Republic Pictures, and I went to work for Columbia Pictures. And then Benita's dad was getting quite bad, and so she decided to go back to Portales, and I stayed there for a while longer. And then by the time I got to come back to Portales, she had met my brother, and she was ready to marry my brother and become my sister-in-law instead of my best friend. But she was still my best friend and my sister-in-law too for the rest of our life.